All right, today we are jumping into a pretty controversial playbook for modern dating. It's written from a man's perspective, and it claims to have all the secrets to a long-term relationship. But let me tell you, its advice is, well, it's not what you'd call conventional. So the book we're breaking down today is this one right here. It's written with the goal of telling women what the author believes men are really looking for when it comes to choosing a wife and a long-term partner. And the book really kicks off by tackling this huge question, one it says a lot of modern women are asking themselves. It paints the dating world as this super confusing maze, and, well, it offers itself up as the direct, if pretty polarizing, roadmap to the finish line. So you're probably wondering, why did a man write this book? Well, according to him, the answer is actually pretty simple. He believes he knows what men truly want, and he feels that perspective has been completely lost in today's conversations about dating. The whole foundation of the book rests on this idea that there's a massive communication breakdown between men and women. The author argues that for the past 50 years or so, our culture has been so focused on what women want that what men actually need to commit has been totally ignored, or even worse, dismissed as invalid. Okay, so now we are getting to the absolute cornerstone of his entire argument. He brings up this concept he calls a woman's intrinsic value, and it's tied directly to her past. And look, the author does not mince words. He's incredibly blunt. This quote right here from the book draws a very hard line, basically splitting women into two distinct categories, those you have fun with and those you marry. So what is this intrinsic value he's talking about? According to the book, it has nothing to do with your personality, your career, or your accomplishments. For him, it's a man's way of measuring how likely a woman is to be loyal. And the number one indicator for that, in his view, is her sexual history. So let's break down his logic here. The way he sees it, a woman forms this kind of unique, permanent bond with her first sexual partner. So from his perspective, a virgin can offer her husband complete, undivided loyalty, while any partner after the first gets just a piece of it. And to really hammer his points home, the author creates this reoccurring fictional character named Linda. Her story weaves through the whole book, and it's basically a cautionary tale of a modern woman who, in his view, ruins her own ability to find a committed partner by having casual relationships. Now, this whole concept of value leads directly into the author's views on gender roles. He argues for a very, very specific power dynamic that he claims is absolutely essential for a successful relationship to last. So, the crucial idea here, according to the author, is all about instinct. He says that women are hardwired to be attracted to men they see as superior, and men are instinctively driven to lead and protect women they see as their inferior. He argues this isn't just a preference, it's a biological necessity for attraction and stability. So what does this look like in practice? Well, the book's advice for women is to avoid confrontation at all costs. Instead of challenging a man head-on, she should support him. And if she disagrees, she's told to use what he calls her feminine art of persuasion rather than trying to take charge herself. Okay, so that covers the day-to-day power dynamics. But what about keeping the attraction going for the long haul? How does a wife who has embraced this feminine role keep her husband interested for life? The author's whole philosophy on this can be summed up with this classic saying. He believes that long-term attraction isn't something you achieve once, it's a marathon of continuous effort. And this gets to the heart of his strategy. Just avoid being predictable. The advice is basically to reveal new sides of yourself slowly over time. The idea is to keep him intrigued by never letting him feel like he's got you all figured out. And here, the author introduces this really stark duality. He advises that a wife should be reserved and chaste in public, but behind closed doors, she should be completely uninhibited, ready to fulfill all of her husband's desires. The argument is that a man who is satisfied at home won't go looking for it elsewhere. So, if that's the key to attraction, what about the actual day-to-day partnership? For the author, it all boils down to two things: giving up on the idea of perfection and embracing gratitude for what you have. To explain his point, he uses this simple but pretty vivid analogy of a husband shopping center. He says women go in, and on each floor the men get better. But by always looking for what's on the next floor up, they pass up perfectly good options until they reach the top and find that there's nothing left. The point is, the endless search for perfection can leave you with nothing. According to the author, what a man is really looking for in a lifelong partner is incredibly simple. He boils it all down to just these 4 traits. That's it. But then he immediately contrasts that with what he claims women want. And he presents this massive, complex, and often contradictory laundry list of traits. His argument is that women's expectations are so unrealistic that they're basically setting themselves up for constant disappointment. And this quote right here is really his core message on this whole topic. He's urging women to accept their partner's flaws and be grateful for the man they have, instead of always comparing him to some impossible fantasy ideal. So after all of this advice, the good, the bad, and the controversial, what is the final, ultimate takeaway from this book? Well, it all comes down to the consequences of a woman's choices, particularly the ones she makes when she's young. The author's conclusion is, once again, incredibly blunt. He basically argues that by the time a woman decides she's done having fun and wants to get serious, she's already spent her single most valuable asset for the marriage market, what he calls her intrinsic value, or her capacity for total loyalty to one person. And that's where he leaves it. The entire book funnels down into this one final, extremely provocative question for the reader. He frames the whole experience of dating and relationships as this fundamental choice between 2 very different paths and 2 very different identities. It's a stark ending, and it's definitely designed to make you think about everything you just read.